Hey y'all, happy, what is it? 3rd of July here, 2025. Uh, yeah, well, hang on 1 second. I'm gonna quiet that. And this is kind of spontaneous. I am trying to work out what it is that I need to, how to set things up so I can just go push a few buttons and have it work through that other software. And I could do it at the same time between Rumble and YouTube. It's been a bit of a challenge because in that realm, I don't know really anything about it. I'm more of a human services kind of person. But anyway, there's been a lot of really crazy stuff going on. I think there are a lot of distractions. I think there are a lot of people that are going to succumb to the distractions. I think that there are things that are happening with each and every one that they're on a personal level who are going to be not really overwhelmed, but I am okay. I'll say at risk of maybe getting distracted with something really important that like a major life event. And I don't know if it's to change the trajectory or if it's meant to, for me personally it is, but it feels like that this is something a little bit bigger. I think it more universal, if you will, only because I've been talking to Stone Hobbit so much, and we've kind of said, something's on the horizon, and she had mentioned that had gotten something about something happening. I'm gonna throw her an invite link now that I think about it. But really, the kind of thing that is crazy is that she's been talking about this for a while, and she says I keep getting about something over the 4th and 5th of July. Well, it's the 5th of July where she's at, or 4th of July where she's at, and it's the 3rd here. We'll just send her this invitation real quick. There you go. All right, because I know things have been going on there for her too, where she's at on the, excuse me, on the southern hemisphere, and it's been pretty wacky. For the time being, I do drive about 40 minutes one way to work. And it's a significant number of miles. Can you tell it's been a long week and it's only been 4 days? That for I drive through some, excuse me, I drive through some very rural areas. There's a lot of farmland, and I do have some farmland behind me. There's cornfield behind me, and across the road behind them, there's some farm fields. I don't know what's back there, but the whole thing, she said she'll be a few minutes. I'm just letting her know to be sure that she realizes that we're live on YouTube and I'm recording. Uh, but anyway, yeah, there's corn. What I had to do a couple of 3 days ago, because it's July, beginning of July, where plants are well into it. Um, I couldn't even have the windows down typically because it's a little bit cooler, and I have to, hot weather. I'm still got a couple of layers on. Driving, I had to close my sunroof, I had to close the windows, and I had to push the fan on in the car so it would just circulate and filter the air that was in the car. And because my nose started to burn and I started to feel something in the back of my throat, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like It was pesticides. That's all I could smell. And it's like, really? I mentioned this to somebody else about a year or two ago, and I was driving through just my little area. I was like, oh my God, all I smelled driving home. As soon as I turned that one corner and came across those cornfields, I smelled pesticides. It was there and gone. It was, fairly quick. But where I drive now, that's all you get are those dang pesticides. Not the funnest gig to be driving for 35, 40 minutes. And it's not like it's 25 miles an hour or 35 miles an hour. Most of that travel time is at 55, right? So it's a big piece of property, right? And I'm in mid-Michigan and things are pretty flat, so things kind of stick there. So I guess the point is that there's so much going on and I've seen a lot of stuff about poisons. I've seen a lot of stuff about the whole fire ant eradication, and I can't remember the two chemicals that they're using, and the people are absolutely outraged. And oh man, false sense of security just came over me, and I had those images of those poles downed. I can't even tell you where that was at here in the States. I got the word staged. I don't know, false sense of security. In other words, we're not supposed to let our guard down for that little thing. That might be a little side message or something. I don't know. But I guess the other thing, sorry if I'm not, yeah. Yeah. So my internet's really slow, but it's been crappy even before that. I think a lot of the towers, we've been told are towers for our internet connection. Some are saying that there are, things on there that can do harm to people, not just when you're driving by. I mean, you can go down that whole rabbit hole thing if you want. But I guess my point is about the whole pesticides. Not only was that coming up just for me personally, just driving around in my own area, it was, we start to see all this, and we've had mosquito abatement programs here. I shut all my windows. I will hear them like usually about 10 o'clock at night coming through here. And it's like, you just jump up and I just close all the way because you don't know. You don't know when they're coming. They just come flying through, but the truck makes such a weird noise that it's like, okay, window shut. I don't care what you're spraying. And it makes me kind of wonder why, because I know, 20, 30, 40 years ago here in the States, they were talking about, they had to bring in these ladybugs who were supposed to control the aphid population. Well, apparently that kind of backfired because they didn't really use our ladybugs. They used ladybugs from a different area. I'm not going to say what it was, but they used foreign ladybugs that came in here, and they weren't just eating the aphids. If you got those bad girls and boys on you, you'd get munched on too. And I remember pulling into our garage. We lived in a rural area at that point. I mean, very rural. You couldn't see your neighbor's house in the summertime, basically. And you had three neighbors, and maybe the guy behind you was literally a mile away. We had a whole huge patch of them on one side of the house. All these ladybugs, they were obviously the foreign ladybugs. So it was different. It's just different. But I would rather see that happen because that kind of ebbed out a little bit. I would rather say, so now we have these Japanese beetles. I've lost an apple tree in the back. I'm just starting to try and get things restarted in my life. Poor little guy is only this big. When I got it, was like 3 or 4 feet tall. And it's like I'm feeling pretty, out of luck because all these things that people are doing, and not just the us, it's it's the people who are, facilitating these programs and have people programmed in and of themselves to support it. It's like, talking to somebody and they were saying, well, we're looking forward to get another a tower put up in our area, so our services will be better. Like, what? I was like, okay, so clearly, and I shouldn't react that way, but it's kind of like when you're into it and you really do independent research outside of what these people are telling you is out there, because you'll find both. You'll find people spreading this disinformation, but you'll also find people out there doing legit research. And don't just sit there and go from wiki and this whole AI. Man, it's so screwed up our resources and our research. You really have to find different ways of getting in and changing this stuff. Even when I was in school, just maybe like 5-6 years ago in university, and they were it was so easy to find all these crazy articles, but it was on a different like a different kind of browser because it was specifically for school. And you had, ways of filtering, they had like a filtering options on the side based on whatever it is that you were researching. So to me, it made more sense to try and build a base of knowledge so we know what to do. Because some things are going to start, and I'm going to say it now, is that people keep talking about the shift. There's a shift. I don't see just a shift. All right. So when you have like if you're looking at, you typically you think not really panning gold, but even if you have like a flour sifter or just something with a rim and a like a grate on the bottom, however fine mesh, whatever it is. But when if you had just a pan that was that same shape and had a solid bottom, that's the shift. But not only is the shift happening, but there's a sift happening. So what is that sift doing? The things that don't fit within that paradigm are dropping away. So it's a sifting and a shifting that's happening. And one of the ways to kind of, hey, there she is. All right, something's going on with my whole YouTube thing not wanting to load properly, but yeah, I don't know if you heard me say, do you have it on? Can you say something? Because I feel like you can't, I'm not going to hear you.
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay, lovely. Because things have been kind of different.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I was just saying, it's like, it's not only this sifting that's coming on, not or shifting, it's sifting at the same time. So if you had a bunch of stuff in a pan and you're going to go like this, it's going to move things around. It's going to be chaotic and blah. But underneath, there's going to be that sifting. So there's going to be this really indistinguishable falling away. And what you're left with, you're not really going to realize until there's enough stuff that's shifted out the bottom. And you're going to go, just like if you're not going to find the bugs and the clumps in your flour until you're done sifting, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Yes, yes,
Right. So
yes.
and I know we've been talking about this whole there's something that's happening and I feel like that's what's happening and it's not necessarily going to be things that are major. Things are doing this. Everybody's following this story and that story and there is this and what does sifting and shifting do? It's a separation process.
Yeah. It's another
So
form of division.
yes, and division, if you're sticking around, can cause derision, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Um, I don't know if you had anything to add to that, but yeah, it's just been a
Well, I'm not sure what the topic line was. My
it was
head
the
was
whole weird shit's
elsewhere.
happening. Yeah, weird stuff's happening. You know, something that you had talked about last few times that when we're off the recording thing, and we've talked about how there's been some weird stuff, and you've said in past a couple of times that there's something around like the 4th and 5th of July. And
Yeah.
it's the 3rd here, it's the 4th there. And a lot of times we have this window that we have to work with. But again, I don't know that it's going to be major and it's going to be like a distraction on a micro level. So, whatever that is. So, my personal thing that's going on. And I know other people, somebody just told me, it's like, oh, they just found out that this, that, and the other family member that's turbo cancer. And it's like, it wasn't them directly, but it affects them. So there's all this, I'm not going to call it little, but stuff that's like on the fringe that gets you distracted just enough.
Yeah.
They,
That's the emotional attachment. Okay. That's the whole, I mean, it's one thing to understand what the emotions are and what they're there for and what what their purpose is. It's another to go, okay, now I can see that if I attach myself to that subject over here or that person over there, I'm going to be attaching myself to that much more stuff. Do I really want that? Do I really need that? Because that's another form of harvesting. As soon as I step into that, I'm going to be harvested. As soon as I step into that, I'm going to be seeing all these different beings and creatures and I'll be going to these different areas of the dimensions and I'm happy where I'm at right now. But the shift that's it's like I can I it's like they're blocking out the sky. It's not just that they're blocking out the sky so we can't see what's being revealed to us all. They're talking about the replacement of the sun and the solar. I have some sort of weird connection to the sun. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but I don't believe it is a solid gas mass. I've always believed it is a portal and there are beings that have come through it. And I sort of feel like this is what's happening again now. It's opening up the frequency when they emit these waves that come our way. We're not just picking up on the ions, we're picking up on the whispers. And the whispers are the voices from wherever that wave has been generated, and it's coming our way. We're going to pick up on the whispers and then we're going to see the arrivals. So if we're listening, if we're seeing the shift, there is the governments around the world are doing a huge reset push, new world order, whatever it is that you want to put a label on it. It's a reset. It's a new energy reset. And we are stepping into a time of exposure, a transparency, and accountability. And that's what they're pushing back against is our energy of being, that's clear intent. Those words say it all right there. We now want to have clarity. All right, we want to clear the stuff. So this shift, this energy disturbance that's going on, we can see it, we can feel it. As soon as we sense it and recognize it, we can use it. We can transmute those energies and we can use that. We can do exactly what they're doing from to us, we can do to them because we can transmute that energy. We can change everything that is going on around us just by the mere clear intent. Enough of us are doing it. And this is the whole prayer thing. The prayer thing was not, it's when you go to give thanks, you're doing it genuinely. You don't need to give it to a set direction. And in most religions, it's one God or another. That is what I call the set direction. All right. So my focus is on a set direction because I've given it a label, I've given it a direction. So when you have that clear intent, that fixed intention, that's where the energy is going to go. So at the moment with all of this, it's huge shifting. And I'm on the belief that the powers that be, the puppets, are also puppets, and the shadows behind that, the bigger intention is if you look at everything that's happened in the last few years, to me that's tagging and bagging. All right. If you've grown up on a farm, you know what tagging and bagging is. And that's what I see. And it goes another step. Now this might sound crazy, but if it was, I would have dropped it a long time ago if I thought it was crazy. But whatever has tagged and bagged has been owned and is getting ready for delivery. And I sort of feel like that produce, that commodity has been laced. So, like when you go to poison something, you disguise it, okay? You disguise it. And so we might be being used as that for the species that is on its way here in mass. There's been some footage coming out of these massive fleet coming in. And I like when I saw the pictures, I just burst into laughter because I'm sure I've seen that picture before. Like 10 or so years ago. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so they're playing that card again. So here we
Yep.
go. They're
Yep.
making sure in this shift they cover every single distraction. All
Yep.
right. And they're using the algorithms to do it, but we can change those algorithms just like that. All right. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think the thing is that it's really good that there have been so many people out there, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, whatever platform you're talking about, Rumble, that they're talking about these past civilizations, how the
Yeah.
history has not been reported. It's been recorded, but not reported the what had actually happened. Like they found so many buildings with they say it's from 1897, but really that first digit looks like a J or an I, does not look like
Yeah.
a one at all. So, I mean, that's just one example. And that's what they're kind of alluding to is that we've not been here in this particular space time as long as they're leading us to believe. They've manufactured this thing called dark ages, which is really just a reset. And they tried to cover up the manipulation of the recorded time. Doesn't manipulate time, it's manipulated the recording of what transpired. So
Yeah.
that's like a huge difference. But if we didn't have people that were so engrossed in those things, the unfortunate thing is do they really see a lot of the, because a lot of them want to still hang on to a religious paradigm, and I guess to a certain degree that's fine if that makes you feel like you're keeping safe, but don't think that that's gonna, don't get offended if there are people that don't want to travel that path. It's
Yeah.
good that people are made aware of, hey, we've not really been given the transparent, accurate history. So what do we do with that? How do we move forward? And what does it mean? And then there's this other distraction of, well, where are we? Are we on a flat? Where are we on a globe? Are we on an ellipse? I mean, what adult? I've seen some pretty crazy stuff. One of them had like a toroid, like the Earth is a donut, and it's like that's like fine, explore. But you know what? That's good. Explore that stuff because that's what research is about. It's not about
Yeah.
proving yourself right. It's about proposing these different theories and playing them out, whether it's on paper or in models, and seeing if it's right. Because if it's not, then you go, okay, well, let's modify or move on. Or I mean, that's how I think is the right way to learn. The wrong
Yeah.
way is to say, well, I'm right and you're wrong, and here's what I call science, which is a whole religion in and of itself. Which is why I decided not to go for that. I think we talked about this before. I decided not to go for a PhD in psychology because I felt like it was more political than
Yeah.
educational. It's like, forget that. I'm not going to help anybody. I'm just giving somebody some money and a bigger ego. So
Yeah.
walked away from that. But it is a distraction. Um, and once we're aware of it, I think we with this shifting and those other little falsehoods are falling away. My concern is it's not really so much a time thing, but it's more like a collective realization that, oh crap, we're in the same boiling pot, frogs. Is it too late to jump? Or my idea is we get like this reconnaissance crew of frogs jump out and turn that damn stove off.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there are good things. Frogs like water. It's a temporary thing. Let's just jump out, fix the situation, and jump back in the pool. I guess that's another idea. I don't know, but yeah, this whole shift and the sifting with getting things away from, and out of our, I think those are the distractions, but the pieces are going to get bigger and they're not going to fall through those holes. And I guess we have to figure out what to do with it
Yeah.
because
Well,
we
when you
can't
was,
keep doing the same thing over and over because if somebody else is just going to push that red button again, right? We
yeah.
have to do something different. So, I think a lot of the stuff is 100% psychology. It's psychological. And they don't want us to realize that because therein lies our power individually. And when we do that, we're going to all of a sudden realize, dang, there really is more of us than them. And
Yeah.
we don't have anything to be afraid of.
Yeah. Well, it just, when you're saying that, like this week, I've seen a lot of waves, lot of different types of waves have showed up. I saw black salt waves, and they were like crystalline, and that was amazing. And then I saw your waves that you were holding up, and they had the golden flakes going across the top, which showed me another wave of beings coming in, like energy. Energy was coming, and energy was riding these waves. And then the next one I got was like, you know, where do they take our power away? This is where I'm looking at the solutions so that we don't keep falling into these repetitive patterns. Each of us individually have to be able to recognize what is going on. And it's going to be different for all of us because, the frequency that we surround ourselves in is can be very dense, can be built up of so many different layers. And if you're only just waking up to those layers, all I can say is a lot of fairy tales are showing itself. So when the princess had to sleep on all of those different layers of mattresses, yet
Mhm.
she could still feel the pee underneath?
Yep.
Was it that she knew that they were going to do that to her because there was a mirror in the room? Or was it that she actually had those sensibilities? So, when we start moving these layers, there's been a lot of moving the veil. What is the veil? The veil is the change of your perception. So, as soon as you change your perception of the type of fabric your veil is, it becomes thinner until that veil is no longer because it doesn't need to be. And this is our growth. If they take away the abilities, okay, they took us off the land. By taking us off the land, by putting plastic shoes on our feet, by putting us in concrete cities, and then totally surrounding us by elements that dumb us down, that solidify us, we're just a repeat of what we did to our pineal glands. We can open those cockpits again. All we've got to do is turn around and change that perception. Okay, you can still get outside and you can still ground. It doesn't matter how small that little patch of earth is. We can get out there and ground. I can't recommend that you go out there and get into a bathtub now and put your salts in it, because what happens to fluorides and chlorines and other chemicals when you add other chemicals to it, like soaps and salts and shampoos and deodorant sprays. When we start going, well, that's our footprint. That's the footprint. They took us from the land, and we got a new footprint. Now the same thing's happening again. Everything comes back to the sole of the bottom of your foot, to being grounded on the land. So when now we go into the psychological side of it, the mind, the giving someone permission to be able to read and write and count. These are like, everybody should be able to do this. If you want to learn a skill, you should be able to go out there and learn a skill without having to go into debt, lifelong contracts with a government agency that's fictitious in the first place. The divisions that have been designed there, they've been designed to keep you on your own side of the fence. But at the same time, you forgot that it's keeping you imprisoned. The mortgage that you pay on your house every single day, you rent a room of your own house for the rest of your life, because as soon as you finish paying for the ownership, the deed, or the permission of that house for how many ever long, you also got to pay the rent of the land, the taxes, the roads, the everything, all the fake illusion that's out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got
it's
to pay for
real.
the you got to
It's
pay for the schools. You got to pay
oh,
for the roadside pickups and tree trimming and it's kind of like there was that I don't know, this might be a little off topic, but I went to a conference about an hour away from here a few years ago, and there was a gentleman who was I'm not going to name names because I don't want to misspeak anything. He left the United States. He had was one of those dubious people who sued, I think it was the DOD. I think he sued the Department of Defense. But he was talking about where he lived, which is in a small, warm area, independent country. And he was saying that the local government had, and their taxes were very low there, collected tax on a particular, said, oh, we need to increase this tax and we're going to collect this tax for this, that, and the other. Well, he calculated it out because he's a money guy, calculated it all out and figured out that, well, I'm just going to throw a number out there because it's not accurate. So if they collected $100 million, the people were told it was only going to cost 30. or 20. So they collected all this money, and he figured out how much this process that they were going to have was only going to cost X amount of dollars, and it was way less. So what happened to the rest of the money?
Yeah.
Where'd the rest of the money go? And I
Well,
think
that,
that that's in spades everywhere.
yeah, it is. It
So
is.
that's
Everything's
part of the energy
done by
harvesting
funding.
too. There's a
Yeah.
big energy harvesting.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at the damage. Or this, I was talking about this earlier on. This weather warfare and stuff, this is not new. This is so not new. Um, you just have to look at the old paintings and you have to just reinterpret the art. What was the artist portraying in that art? And I'm not talking about the generated art. All right, I'm talking about from human hand art. And you can see you've got the wind blowing from the four corners, and all these buildings have fallen down, and people and bodies getting up from the rubble, and they're starting all over again. So it's like, and the Reaper comes along. There's all these different telltale signs that this has happened repeatedly. So, if it's happened repeatedly, we as ourselves in the past would have come to these same conclusions. What can we do to stop this repeat cycle that we're on? How do we, because it's just going to keep happening. And we're going to just keep evolving into another species because of genetic manipulation, because we're allowing them to do it. I don't know, I know that some of the beings that I've encountered, I'm just, there's just no fight. There's just don't bother. Just no fight. And it's like, okay, okay. So at the end of the day, if those types of beings are behind all of this, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to enjoy every single day that comes along. I'm going to keep doing the best that I can to up that frequency, to keep it going. And if we can recognize it sooner each time round, then we might have a chance.
And I'm not giving up. Let's put
No,
that out there. Let's not give up on this, because there are a lot of doomer and gloomers, and I think that that's why they're okay with those guys being out there. And that's why I pointed out, it's like, well, what happened? We have all this evidence of, all these different resets, and it's like, well, hey, if we're aware of the resets now, what are we going to
yeah,
do to change that? So one of the things that you and I talked about, I think it was yesterday, we saw the how all the poles and posts were knocked down, and that was it Las Vegas, wasn't it? And that was
yeah,
just, like a few days ago. And I was like, well, wow, okay, what is this? And I looked at the
yeah,
cars. If people are going to have cars between those poles, and I'm thinking, how did they get there? Why
yeah.
are they at such odd angles, but they're all off to the side? And people are taking pictures like, well, yeah, if I saw that, that would be pretty freaky too. But to me, it's like, that feels really staged.
It does feel staged. It
It's
does.
very staged.
It looks by design. When I was looking at those pictures and stuff, I'm looking for burn marks. I'm looking for tractor marks of what pushed it over. All of the different telltale signs of some sort of frequency that may have done it. These things look like something else has pushed them over. This is not, I don't believe a wind did this.
And it's not only
It's
not only not
too,
only not only people are saying, well, even if it was, whatever kind of however they got knocked over, it was beyond that, because there were vehicles between the poles,
yes, yeah,
spaced. No vehicle or person got injured. And the vehicles were spaced out. They weren't like parked on the side of the road. They were all at like these little angles. It's like somebody spaced the cars out, got out, jumped out, and just ran to the, it's like somebody just, it was a set. It was
Yeah,
definitely a
there's
set.
there's not enough footage.
No,
Okay.
no.
In today's date, with cameras on every corner of the street, every shop, almost every vehicle has a camera in it. There are cameras everywhere. The amount of footage that's there does not sit right. I want to see more footage. If you've got footage out there of, what happened around you, you should be putting it out there. There's no reason. It's too limited right now.
And if you live down there, you should be out there, not just commenting on that individual's, because that comment gets buried really quick.
Yeah.
You need to put something out where it actually says blah. I know that
Yeah.
I just posted something earlier today on my Facebook thing, and it was this guy. He went over to Oman, and he said it's kind of like a ghost town. There aren't very many people. Oh, they're all at work in Dubai or whatever. I was like, well, that's fine. He said they were the nicest people. They were just
Yeah.
the nicest people. Not at all. Everything was pristine. And the reason you didn't see anybody there during the day, which was like the guy said, everybody was at work. And I remember, I was talking to someone many years ago. She was from India, and I said, "Well, what did your family do?" She says, "Oh, well, my dad worked over at this, company but he had to fly over to this Middle Eastern country because a number of employees that they needed to run their industry, the population didn't support that. So they
Okay.
would import all these people in to work during the week, and then they would all go home on the weekend, or if they were close enough to commute, that would happen too. So it was really, really interesting when that guy brought that up. But again, when you see things on TV and they're saying all these horrible things are going on, that's why I really appreciated, I think it was Brian Tsang talked
Mm,
about, the fires out where he's at. But
yeah.
I appreciate it. That's really important that people get out there and do that and not BS with it, because, people need this transparency right now. There's too much crap going on that's covering up what we need to do. And it's not about surviving, it's just about this whole reality of who's in control, who is the puppet tier of the puppets,
Yeah.
because it does go higher. I think it goes way higher. I think the people you see on TV, people doing the news articles, really famous people are ones who are, I kind of call into question. I'm not going to name any names again, but um, you have to you have to have on that discernment cap. And there I go with that word again. And I look back and say, oh, I've only been talking about this, um, this discernment thing for about a year. No, I've been talking about it for years because I
Yeah.
found it on my phone where I dictate things in there. It's like, it's all about discernment. It's like, yeah, that's like one of those, oh, here's that word. It's a key. It's a foundational keystone. You don't have that discernment, your building's going to be wobbly. You're not going to be on anything solid. Um,
Yeah.
but
But
yeah,
discernment has to grow, though.
yes,
Discernment has to grow. You have to be able to, tap into your, empathic side, so that you can see when if you're hurting someone, or if you're hurting yourself, or if you're hurting that around you. So when you decide that you don't want to hurt or harm anything around you, discernment kicks in. Okay, it's like, okay, I no longer feel that that is in my best interests. So therefore, this is how I see discernment can grow. When you don't have it, to going through the different stages to having it. And then, then you've got to stop at a certain point so you don't get into the paranoia side of it, because
Mm-hmm.
it can go too far. So you do have to find the balance on all of these different labels, feeling states. So
Yep.
discernment has a balance as well, so you don't go too far over the other side. Yeah, yeah. It's like when you discover what ego is, and then you turn around and say, "Thanks for doing the job. I'm going to take over now." I'll let you out now and then, but yeah, it's under control. So yeah, it's the word power play game again. It's the understanding of what the word actually is saying to you. Because it's a language. We're communicating with that language, with that frequency. So when somebody says something to you, you can feel it off from their breath. You can feel it from their breath. So you can already know that it's going through these different dimensions. In the old days, I really do see reason in, or justification in, sleeping in separate beds, in not wearing multiple layers of synthetic clothing, of wearing sandals instead of plastic covered shoes that don't allow the foot to breathe or the sole to breathe. These are nerve endings in our bodies.
Did you
When
hear
we
what you
go,
just
okay,
said? Our soul can't breathe.
okay,
You said that you just said our soul can't breathe.
yeah,
And that's true. I know that some people are even hypothesizing that's where some of the I don't know that I don't think it's a blanket for everybody, but it might be some of the reason where Morgellons can really kind of flourish is because of the synthetics and the polyesters and because there is, yeah, uh, this was a while ago. I bought a mattress and a really nice quilt, and it was ethically produced cotton because they can be very harmful to the environment if you don't do cotton nicely. But it was a really nice company. It was uh, uh, um, nicely produced. But one of the things that it had in it was that it had some stretch to it. And it wasn't Lycra. It's not elasticine, right? Uh, it was made from natural rubber.
okay,
Rubber, which is the sap from a rubber tree. You don't
yeah,
kill the tree, you
yeah,
know, but I mean, it wasn't cheap because not a lot of people are doing that. But if you had enough people doing that, the cost just from basic economics, the cost would probably go down a little bit. But because
yeah,
there are so few people doing that, it gets to be very expensive. And it does cut us off. With the synthetic clothing and the shoes. And I'm sitting here, I got hardwood floors. I don't have my foot on the ground, but the hardwood floors are connected to the house, and even the cement with the re-rod in it is connected to the earth. So it's ultimately there. It doesn't have the same impact of a grounding effect, but it does more or less, get you a little more connected. It does pull off
yeah,
some of those electrons that we kind of build up. That's why you get those shocks, man, when you're walking through.
yeah.
We should do a whole thing on the electricity and the
Oh
L's
yeah,
and some theories on that. We need to spend some time on another thing you talking about that. There's a whole big thing about L's and electrics
yeah,
and why all these words have L in it. So yeah, and part of the ether.
yeah.
Um,
It,
and that
it's
there's
breaking
there's
down
another
to our
energy
past.
harvesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is another form. I mean, we're being harvested on a multi-dimensional level. If we are dimensional beings as I know we are, and we have different dimensions that we can access, then, I mean, back in the day when I was totally swamped, flooded in orbs, um, that was when they first really started coming to me in mass. They basically said, we're being hijacked. They were being hijacked because of the tears in the areas of being hijacked. They were able to flood through. And wherever I was going, I was getting these orbs. So I worked out that I had a tear in one of my dimensional fabrics, and I had to be able to close that because I was being hijacked. They were coming in through me, but something else was coming in through this way, going in through and penetrating into them. I had to keep that dimension of my ancestors safe, and I wasn't. So when I was able to see the tear in the fabric, I was able to fix it and stop those attachments from happening. Now I can open it whenever I want to, wherever I go, and these things can come in and out all the time. Some of us see a lot of orbs, and some of us don't see any. If you could be protected so that you're not being hijacked, you might be being hijacked on a different dimension instead. So if you spend your day seeing shadow figures, maybe you should be looking into that area of yourself to heal something that's open, because if we are able to access these dimensions, there's going to be some time that we don't close the door properly, and we're going to see shit, you know. I don't know where I went there with that. That was the
No,
orbs.
and it's kind of interesting that popped my head into the fact when I go through the building I'm working in and I check all the doors, make sure everything is turned off and shut off. And the one door I went past, I can, turned off the air conditioning, checked all the windows and everything. And as I'm leaving the door, I go to shut it, and you listen as I'm walking away. I'm listening for that click, for that latch, for that door to hit that. And it didn't happen. And
Ah,
I could have just left it. No, I turned around, I went back, and I solidly closed it and checked it. It's an old building. So you have to kind of check things. So
yeah.
I mean that's the kind of thing though. I think we need to kind of like keep that check. Keep things
See,
in
that's
check.
accountability. That's
Yeah.
accountability. All right. Your senses, your spidey senses said, oh, wait on, I didn't hear that one. Okay. And you went straight back and you did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
that's the
I'm
thing. We got to step up to the plate, and we got to say what's right and what's wrong. And as a consumer, it comes down to the foods. You've got to be able to identify what they're putting on the shelves. And I'm sorry to say, but when you really do this work, you'll discover there's bugger all in the supermarkets that you can eat. Okay? There's bugger all because it's all been irradiated one way or another. It's
Yeah,
not.
I had taken some really good classes at a school up the road here, and the gentleman's written some really good books, and he was talking, well, somebody had asked in the class, well, what would you recommend for X, Y, and Z? And he says, you know what, when you go into the store, he says the one thing you're going to look for is a label. And he says, if it does have a label, don't buy it. And if you think of
Yeah,
everything in that grocery store, in that market has a label.
yeah,
A label. So where do you go? Where do you go? Well, here it's summer. We have a ton of farmers markets.
yeah,
And we're not talking, and you do have to be careful because there are markets there. Well, they'll go to a big producer and they'll buy some of their offcasts, and they'll be an independent person, but you can look at some of the produce and tell. You look around their stalls or their tables and you see the boxes they're bringing in, or you can
Yeah.
see the big semis where you can tell it's a commercial truck where they're trying to sell their little bits and pieces that didn't quite make the
Yeah.
grade or whatever. I mean, it's nothing wrong with the produce, but it's funny because you'll find these occasional people. But then you know when you reach most of the stalls where they're genuine people, we got people that are right up the road from me that, I mean, the one lady, she's now not only doing fruits and veg and eggs, and she's also now, I drove by her stand the other day. I don't see her very often, but she's got fresh cut flowers.
Yeah.
And there's another lady on another road when it's time. It should be now though, because I don't go down there very often again. But it's more like tomatoes and peppers and melons and
Yeah.
zucchini or courgettes and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just everybody, and you can tell when those things come into season, that's when you can um get it all together and
Yeah.
put it on the shelf. And
That's right.
there's a bucket load of information out there once you do it. The problem is a lot of us don't have that time to do it, but go buy from
Yeah.
somebody who does.
Yes. Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I make sure that if I get a basket of fruit that comes my way, or if there's an abundance of something, or that's grown in the garden too much, I will go through the whole process of picking it, cleaning it, drying it out, grinding it down so it's either in a leaf form or a powder form. Or, like the garlic, when there's the garlic, I'll pickle the garlic so it's fermented,
Hmm.
and then I'll chop it up, and then I'll dry it down, and then I will, and it's all done naturally, and then I will grind it down into a powder so that it's like it's condensed. The goodness is still in it. Yeah, I might have lost a little bit along the process, but I've also added probiotics to it. I've also, remineralized it in different ways by doing these steps. So when I go to have it, I'm giving myself a booster. Like I'll add now, if I need to add some flavor to something, I'll just take a teaspoonful and just drop it in because I know that it's in condensed form. I can't get this on the shelves at any supermarket out there, but I can make it myself, and it's not that hard to do. And we've stepped away. We live in a society, what I deemed years and years ago as a disposable society. All right. You can go into a $2 shop and pick up something you need, and if it breaks, you can just chuck it away and go and get another one. This is the disposable society where everything is affordable, except for the things that you really need, things that are really gonna last. By you doing that, you're creating this perpetual cycle of dependency for these devices. Get one that's gonna last you a long time, that's made out of decent bloody material, and look after the bloody thing. It doesn't take that much. People don't even know what elbow grease is these days. You know, go and find some. Go and have a look for what elbow grease is, and then come back and show me what you managed to find. I went through that myself.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
Oh, would
mate,
your dad tell you to go look for it? Oh
no,
man, that's harsh.
one of my bosses actually, one of my bosses
Oh,
from,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Yeah, and
I think,
I think though too, there are a lot of things that we can get kind of roped into believing because it's part of your culture that you have to have that nice flat green lawn, and there's nothing in my eye that is more distasteful than that green lawn where they're going to come in and spray for all those wonderful foods that you're killing off because it doesn't fit within the grass.
yeah,
I mean, there's a dozen, whether it's echinacea or mugwort or whatever you can put a label on, dandelions. I mean, they're prolific. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy that, people have gotten it in their heads that they have to kill all this stuff off. you
Yeah.
know, hey, you want to be good, you want to raise your awareness and be good to the planet. Don't have a green lawn. Put in things that are going to flower, put in edible flowers, put in
Yeah.
things that you can harvest, put in things that are that are flowers that you can eat. You know, geraniums and pansies, you can eat those things. And you don't need pesticides for them right now because
Yeah.
you know what they're going to
Well,
come up
that's the
against.
thing. But people aren't aware of, I mean, in the early days when I started putting veggie gardens in the front lawn, it looked crazy. It looked like I was a crazy person. But my yard was very colorful. And I did what was called companion planting. So like through the seasons, one would die down and fertilize the soil, and the other one would use that as nutrition. So they cycled each other's waste, which was really good. The nutrients that they put off into the soil fed the other one. And that did the same for the bugs. And by doing this, there was this whole natural process where none of the bugs overpopulated. It was, it was like they knew their population limit because of what the plants were there. So I
Mhm.
didn't get a lot of flies. I didn't get a lot of mosquitoes. I always have spiders around me, not just because I like spiders, but the spider web itself uh, is not an antiseptic. Yes, it is an antiseptic, but it'll numb the pain. It numbs the pain, and the stickiness of it when you wind it around will actually act like stitches or a band-aid to pull the skin surface together. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we've left behind that when we look back and go, oh, the medieval days were this and this and this, they knew the stuff that we've forgotten, but we still have it. It's still there. It's still accessible. And when I'm now looking at the timestamps like the Egyptian era or the Roman era, or all these different populated eras
Mhm.
that we once were in. If I can go back to several of these when I know I existed because of the skill base and the trade and the senses that are connected to that. So that means that that was a population boom at that particular era. What happened for that to suddenly not be populated? So when I start going back to those timestamps, you see a repeated pattern. The question that made me jump onto that earlier on was we were having a discussion about the orphan babies at one stage, the train orphan babies. But it wasn't just that time frame. They've done this repeatedly. So nobody has a true, genuine line stamp. They don't know where they came from. So many different genetics have come in. When we can't turn around and pinpoint why there are so many species of humans here and humans having different blood types, well, that's a different species for a start. This is a hybridization program when you get different species of humans with also the different types of bloodlines. When you really start looking into the anatomy of the human and then the anatomy of animals, this is way more than just us being here in a vessel, us having to deal with all the psychological manipulation that's going on. There's way more going on.
Yeah.
Pick a rabbit hole and hang on for the ride.
Yeah, no kidding. And and I think that a lot of times when we do get into those rabbit holes, it's good. It can feel good and educational, and it can be very satisfying. It's also something that we need to be aware that we don't want to dwell and get hooked into that. And I think that that's where we kind of end up having some problems where people get really siloed what they're trying to push, as it were, because we can't like I said, siloed, and you can't reach. I don't know what silos are made out over there, but it's a pretty dang skippy thick piece of cement. And you can't really reach through that silo. You have to exit that silo. You have to exit that rabbit hole. It doesn't mean you leave that experience behind, but you have to be able to pull all of that information together. It's
Yeah.
like they say connect the dots. And it's like, no, you got to weave this thing together because it's all connected. You don't want to connect the damn dots. You want to weave this into this tapestry of what we've been trying to deal with, because it's not just what we're going through right now. We're looking at stuff that has happened millennia and millennia and millennia ago. You want to see things that happened from the beginning of time? Just look in the sky. You want to
Yeah.
see things that have manifested at the beginning of time? Look in the sky, especially at night. That's where you're going to see stuff that's going to go, holy crap, have we been lied to or what? I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the biggest revelations that I had. And again, we have to be grounded, and if well, physically with the whole copper thing that you and I kind of goofed around with yesterday, but grounded in that physical sense, but we have to be mentally grounded too, and kind of stay open to people's other ideas. You don't have to accept them. We
Yeah.
talked about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater too. You know, we're in this amazing time where we have the ability to correct the trajectory of humanity and everything that's
Yeah.
on board this craft, if you will, and make this manifest into something absolutely freaking amazing,
Yeah.
because you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna hear a lot of doom and gloomers, and they're gonna be really siloed, and they're gonna want to keep your attention on this little topic. Even if it's somebody like a big namer, they're gonna talk about this for a few weeks, and then they're gonna talk about this, and then you'll notice there'll be several of them talking about these. Because how long ago was it that we were talking about drones? How long ago was it that we were talking about Fort Knox? I mean, there's all these topics. And the Miami freaking alien mall thing,
Uh,
it was like, oh yeah, oh, that was just that. And it's like, yeah, but how many people were sucked in?
yeah.
How many how many people are sucked in?
Yeah.
And the AI thing, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah.
And like I think one of the things that you said, and this is all about raising awareness, reframing this whole story, and we have that ability to do. Oh my gosh, yes. Um, something on an old phone that I have that I dictate into, that ad was actually, I just recently typed that
Jogging a
in.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. And it's that same type of thing. It's like I said, it's not just connecting the dots. It's weaving everything together.
we've
It is. Yep.
there's been a
It's
lot of the weaving going on. If yeah,
yeah.
that was an inside conversation, people. I'm sorry. Yeah, recently the topic of weaving keeps coming up. The threads, really fine threads, okay. And so we are the creators of this weave. And we now need to be weaving this thread, because from that we go, we spin this thread so that we can weave it. So there is a loom coming. And what is a loom? It's when everybody's in a pause state. They're waiting for something to happen.
It
Why are
makes me
they
think of
waiting?
something
Because
looming
it's
over you,
action.
like the sword of Damocles is looming over you, like kind of
Yeah.
ominous.
Yeah. Well, we are waiting for something. There is that sort of, I can feel that anticipation in the air that there is something is about to happen. But I'm being cautious using my discernment of where that energy sensation is coming from, right? Where am I recognizing that feeling state from? Is it because of the populace out there that are in that state and I'm picking up on that ripple effect? All right. Whereas I'm trying to recognize where these feeling states are coming from, and what I can do to not just deflect and protect myself from it, but also be able to put that energy out there so that if you are doing the same thing, you can see you're not alone. You can pick up on that energy and you can radiate from yourself. It's like if I learn how to fly, I'll be right here teaching everybody else what I did, how I did it, because this is us here having this experience. All right, whether we turn out to be a genetic experiment, being cloned or templated or whatever it turns out to be, this is the experience that I'm having personally here, and I'm sharing it with you guys. Gosh, shit. But when you change the perspective of what your life has been, because I get a lot of people come and say, well, because I used to work doing advocacy for people, and they would say, oh, I don't have any skills. I've just been a solo parent all my life, da 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 da, da da da, life, the stories. And so you got to go and navigate through that and go, the first thing you got to change is you're not just anything. All right. You're not just anything. You are existence. All right. You are existence. You are here. When people talk about, oh, I don't know why I exist. All right. Why do you exist? I don't know why I exist. Don't worry about why. Don't worry about why you're here. Just enjoy being here. There's a lot of shit out there that's not enjoyable. But if we have the opportunity to be able to discern what our realities are, what levels of participation we put into it, there's some fantastic people out there doing these podcasts and stuff, but their frequency doesn't change. It's like they're stuck in their own personal energy loop. And, you can offer as much, there's a lifeline. But if they don't take it, they're not ready to take it, well, that's where they're going to stay. Now, when I talk about loops like that with reality, I see the same patterns happening in spirits that have, and people who have passed on, souls who have passed over, but because they created a loop energy while they were here, that's the loop energy that they're creating in that timestamp. So when they've gone, long gone, you're still going to see that person that I'm thinking about at the moment in that loop. And if I ever in her frequency, that's what I'm going to bloody recognize. So if you pick up on that subconsciously, you're going to be able to see it later on down the track through something else will show up, and that's what you're going to remember. So we can code ourselves. We can create our own codes so that when we go step into a recognizable, when the body recognizes when you come back again, I'm sorry, this is just one of the rabbit holes. When you come back again and you recognize that frequency, you're going to find those codes faster. And the more we do with the work for our inner selves and recognizing and giving ourselves this acknowledgement, I mean, it's one thing to say, I recognize God, I recognize Jesus, I recognize A, B, and C deities, and give your thanks to them that way. But don't forget about yourself. All right, because without you being here, you can't give them thanks there. So remember to thank yourself at the same time. Like I was saying earlier on, a prayer to me is not saying, thank you, God, thank you to whoever, blah, blah, blah. It's thank you sincerely for what I'm about to receive. What are you about to receive? You're about to receive information, data. You're feeding the best. I mean, somebody's just created that. They made a meal on your plate. So they've put that energy into it. There's all these different little aspects that do affect us that we don't count. And when we go into the programming, you can see why. I mean, we are such diverse creatures. It's amazing. It truly is amazing. They know it, okay, for all the rituals and sacrifices and crazy experiments they do, they know it. And we know it because we wake up to the fact that we know what they've been doing to us. And
Right.
there are a lot of people stepping up and saying, this is what I went through. That's okay, so that's the experience. This is the findings from that experience. That to me is a survivor. That to me says you've grown past the stuck states. It doesn't mean they don't still affect you. You've learned how to manage the experiences. All right. You know, you're never going to get over something. And I'll be the first one that's just where I'm at. That's not a limitation for you to stop there. You might be able to, and you might be able to come back and say, well, I did this. This might help you later on. And this is what I say is the 50-50 energy exchange. If you can, you do. If you can't, you keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And we have, sorry, I'm mildly distracted a little bit because we had he calls himself gooey tip. Okay, yo, uh, got you. Would like to join our conversation tomorrow. So he said he's got a lot to talk about on this particular subject. I like the idea of talking to people that are not big names because I think most of us have something relevant to say because even though they might call us little people, we're the ones with the most power because obviously there are more of us than them. It's just a matter of getting not necessarily even organized. It's more about oscillating in the same direction for everybody's. I don't want to say like greatest good. That sounds kind of new agey, but that's ultimately kind of where it's going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have people outside of this, even what they call, mainstream. Yeah, I think most people, not all, there are far too many people that still watch it. But now this alternative media also has a lot of very, oh man, yeah, I could say the word polluted, but it's ultimately that tainted view. And again,
Yeah.
I think they are going to be motivated by something a little bit different. I don't say money is not evil, but people are. If you have a good heart and you have a butt ton of money, you're going to probably live a pretty humble life. My ex-husband have worked for a gentleman well, several years who had very humble beginnings and built up a multi-million dollar business. And he showed us a home that he renovated. It was about 10,000 square feet. It was built in like the early 1920s. It's phenomenal. It was one of the Dodge family homes, and it was just stunning. When he walked in, he talked to us about, what he had to do when he first bought it, what it looked like. And it was like, oh my gosh. And we figured out, it was like, no, if he said he did it, he did it. He was the man physically on the ladder and doing stuff. If he said, oh, I had a guy come in and do it, yeah, that's what happened. But the funnest thing is he opens this Gothic door. And you think this guy with all this money is going to answer the door. And he was in these like dress pants, and they were hanging and they were baggy, and there was a big leather belt was kind of nasty on the end, and he had a cotton, sure, it was summertime, he had a cotton dress shirt on, but none of it was buttoned up. None of it was buttoned up. And I think it was short sleeve from memory. And I think he was bald, I'm not sure, but the apparatus on his head was not usually pretty like on. Yeah, it was just a real picture.
Uh,
Nicest guy you'd ever want to meet, but if you saw this dude walking down the street, you would not think he had the change in his pocket that he did. So I think that's a big part of the problem is that we don't know how to handle abundance. And that's a lot to do with not just emotional maturity, it's also to
Yeah.
do with spiritual maturity. And we don't know how to handle it. And then our ego gets in the way and we end up screwing things up. So it's important that if you do ask for abundance, that you know what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
you know, and it's an abundance of knowledge. I know people that have all these degrees and mental health or whatever, and they got like this alphabet soup after their name. And I'm thinking, you got to be dumb as a
Yeah.
freaking post. You can't tie your shoes, and if you do, you're probably going to tie them together. So you have to kind of put that practicality side. Has to come into your wisdom and your knowledge and all that other kind of goodness. So, um, yeah, I think it's late for me. I get up crazy early and it's almost 10 o'clock and I'm still yammering on. So we're gonna do this again tomorrow. We're gonna give it a shot, and it's gonna be Oracle Stones, or if we have somebody to interview, like got you or the gooey thing. I don't know what you were calling yourself there, but bro, we'll try and make it work, and we'll just kind of figure it out. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out. You got something good to say that's important. That's important that we hear from people that don't have the big names and the big tags and the sponsors and all that.
Yeah.
I
I'm looking for real stories. I'm looking for real
yes,
experiences, people
yes.
who've done the boots on the ground, and we can have a proper conversation about, the findings, how deep you went into it. None of the guff like, oh God, we don't need guff. And, if I ask a question or something, because it's a genuine question, all right. It's not a bloody AI generated question. I want to know. I want to know about your experiences so that we can find commonalities because there is so much more going on. I know I'm not the only one doing this. I've met so many people in the last 20 years doing different aspects of things that I've done. And it's like, thank you for that piece. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for doing that work. So, if you have experiences you want to share and you're genuine with it, message myself or Auric Vibe 1111. That's 1111, by the way. Um, so yeah, if you have anything you want to share, even what you think is going on, as long as you can mind your P's and Q's, because it's about sharing with dignity, sharing with mana and honor. So we want to get this energy out there, and we want to up this wave. We can do this. So thank you for staying up late again, Auric. You know, I know what
We
it's like.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Who sleeps these days? That's what I tell people. It's like, I can sleep when I'm dead. And even then, I'm not so sure.
No, no, you won't be. You won't be sleeping then either.
All an
Like, ah,
illusion.
damn, I caught the bus. I didn't realize I was riding. Okay, destination, let's do it
Oh
again.
man. All
Anyway,
right.
thank
I
you.
hope everybody has a great and safe
Yep,
evening, and we'll catch everybody on the flip side. Take care.
yep.